Hey guys, it's Mitch. How's it going? We're back for another Spawn video. Apparently we're not done with Spawn yet. Well, we still haven't finished the two-part Who Killed Spawn thing. Whatever. Mystery, that's the word. Who could it possibly be? Well, we did find out at the end of the last issue that it was Chapel. So I guess him showing up on the cover here isn't too much of a surprise, but we're going to take a look at Spawn number 13 today. So just before we get into it, if you enjoy the channel, if you feel like you might want to help out a little bit, go subscribe on my Patreon. Gives you early access to everything I do. Helps the channel, helps to buy new comics. So yeah, we're finishing up the Who Killed Spawn thing here. I feel like this was a little bit hyped up back in the day. I think Todd learned early on that you have to hype up your stuff constantly in order to stay at the top of people's minds. And, keep yourself in Wizard, keep yourself on the covers of all the magazines, all that kind of stuff. So after the first issue, of course, he does the 4 issues with the guest writers. Then he does the Who Killed Spawn thing. Then he does the Grant Morrison thing coming up. It's all event-driven comics right now, right? So there's not a whole lot to really go back on because nothing happened in the last issue. So we might as well dive right into this. So let's start with the cover here. That's an okay cover. It's not spectacular. It's not all that cool looking. It doesn't help that Chapel's got this goofy look on his face with his big cartoon eyes. Yeah, no, that's not cool, man. Sorry. Although, I mean, if that wasn't there, you wouldn't really know what this book was about. Like usual for Spawn. The drawing is fine, though. Oh, man. It's another one of these. So, this is another issue where the whole issue is basically just there to accomplish one thing. In this case, it's to get to the fight between Spawn and Chapel. Nothing else really matters, and Todd assumes he'll be able to fill it up in the meantime, and then he gets to it, and he doesn't have anything other than, I don't know, I'm just gonna, fucking run my mouth for 8 pages here. So at the start here, what we're gonna get the origin of Spawn and Wanda's relationship. And the excuse for this is that I think Spawn is trying to keep focused on Wanda. He's trying to keep dredging up memories about her. I don't know why exactly. They do mention in here that he's starting to realize that he has this power meter and that he's used up like a fifth of it. But yeah, no real reason for him to be having to focus on a specific memory other than I think somebody told Todd, hey, if you want to be a good writer, you should write what you know. And what Todd did was he went and took the origin of him becoming a comic artist and applied it to Spawn. So it was the second game of the doubleheader. We'd lost the first, but we're tied in the bottom on the last inning of the second one. I'd reached first on a walk, never was much of a hitter, then stole second base easily. I couldn't hit, but no one ever outran me. From what I've read on Wikipedia, this is the case with Todd. Todd, of course, wanted to be a baseball player first. Comics was a fallback for him. So standing on second, feeling good about being the potential winning run, I looked over to behind the third base dugout where Wanda was sitting. She smiled and stood up so I could see her next batter single to center, and I was off. Unfortunately, their fielder had a rocket for an arm. The ball, the catcher, and I arrived at home all at the same instant. I was out in more ways than one. When the dust from the collision had cleared, they had to carry me off the field. I had broken my ankle. So Wanda takes him to the hospital and then takes him home, looks after him, they bang, yada yada. And he's remembering this because the more angry he is, the less he'll rely on his powers, which seems counterintuitive because we've seen in previous issues when he gets angry, he starts turning on the light show. So yeah, now the origin of Al Simmons is that he was a baseball player, just like Todd. And he broke his ankle and could never play again, just like Todd. And so he went and joined the army, whereas Todd went and joined Marvel Comics. And we're getting, I don't know, it's none of this really has anything to do with anything. I guess it's theoretically characterization. So we get, the stuff with Badrock isn't too bad, really, where he's just hanging out and playing video games because he's supposed to be a young kid. And he's supposed to be on security detail, but the new video game that stars him just arrived, so he's hooked it up to the giant monitor in the security office here. And he's making some progress. There's a fun little thing here. This game's rad, a lot better than that sucky Shaft game. I never let my name go on a bad game. He must have needed the cash. And he's doing all right with the game, and then he smashes the controller because he's got these giant fucking rock fingers that he can't control the strength of. And the background here is the history of Al and Chapel, essentially, where first they were in the same unit, and then Chapel went for Youngblood selection. He was always a ladies' man, and Al always called him the Don Juan of Killers, which is a pretty cumbersome nickname. You think they just called him Juan. And when Chapel was getting recruited for Youngblood, apparently he got shown around the installation, and he invited Al along so that I guess he could consider recruitment as well. So at the time, he learned the layout, learned what the security procedures were. I mean, this is 5 or I guess 6 now years later, so you would think that they probably upgraded some shit before that, but I guess not. Says the place is rigged with heat sensors, but Al being a corpse doesn't trigger them, so that's something. He hides in a supply canister and then gets delivered to the proper level, which is a little lazy. And he sits there and waits for Chapel to get back from an assignment or something. So they don't say how long he is there. It is days, though. He says, "So I sat, and as each day passed, my hate softened a little bit. I then began to tell myself about Wanda, remembering the great times we had, special moments." Okay, so that's the purpose of the first day. Okay. So, yeah, Badrock breaks his game. Right then, Shaft calls him, and, he's like, "You're not using the monitor for your fucking video games, are you?" He's like, "No." And has to get back to monitoring, but Spawn's already on the inside, so it doesn't really matter anyway. And Spawn finally gets word, somehow, that Chapel is in the building and is in the training room. Because if there's one thing Youngblood loves doing, it's training. They should have just gone straight there. He probably was there the whole time. Okay, so Shaft is going for a meeting with, I think, some sponsors, which is, like kind of a fun thing. Get a weird thing with Die Hard here stretching in the background. Isn't he mostly a robot? Doesn't matter, I guess. And he invites them to come along with him. Chapel's like, "No, I'm going to stay back and kill more robots." And Spawn's like, he's cocky as ever. And he says, "Good, I didn't want this to be easy, because with my powers, I can't lose." Which, again, just kind of completely deflates the coming conflict. We know that they're going to fight. That's the whole point of this. It should also be like Chapel can somehow, hurt Spawn. Like, there's a little bit of risk in trying to take, but no, not at all. And I always thought that was a goofy shot of Shaft with, like, his visor too low. Like, I don't know, he accidentally ordered the extra large model, and the goofy ass grin that he's got going on. Like, I would expect this guy to be played by Matthew McConaughey. Just like, "We're still here in the training room. Thought I'd check on you and see how you're doing." I have no idea if I haven't seen nearly enough Matthew McConaughey. I don't think that's correct. So one final self-indulgent page before we start whatever we're starting. I just assume that Todd saw this either in a movie or in a comic that somebody showed to him, because he doesn't read anything. And he thought it was cool. He's like, "Okay, I'm going to steal that." So Spawn walks into the training room and slams the door behind him and stands there. And just kind of flaps and clanks in the wind. And Todd is really set on convincing us that it's cool that Spawn just sits there and stares at them for like a minute or so. And Shaft is like, "Make a move and we'll have 20 agents on you. Don't know how you got in here. You're not gonna get out." And Spawn has seen too many Westerns, because he goes, "Make your move." So the move now is that Badrock busts into the training room because someone tripped the silent alarm. And looks over, sees Spawn there, and goes, "Hey, you must be a new recruit. Awesome cape." Okay. And Spawn does, he does magic stuff. He says he lifts his hands and gestures ever so slowly like a modern-day Dracula. That's so lame. Okay. And so he's teleporting out of the facility, and they're just like, "Oh, okay, that's weird. This dude just showed up and stared at us and then zapped out," except that he also teleported Chapel away as well. So now they got to go do a search, all sorts of high-tech searchy stuff. It's a Code 1 event, and time to show the bad guys what happens when you try to mess with us. So, okay. And these pages are all like, Todd is not going hard on these. They look okay. Nothing looks like he's getting outright lazy, but like he is not interested at all in making these particularly cool. I guess it's tough to make them look cool when your character just kind of shows up and stands there and doesn't do anything, but maybe you should have a talk with his writer about that. Okay, so from there we're going to cut to Terry and Wanda, and of course Terry is now under watch from the CIA organization that he's been working for. I think he still works for them. Because a while back, Spawn broke into, a warehouse to steal a bunch of military hardware, like armaments and stuff. and then broke into another installation to steal some files. I don't remember what that was about. That might have been the Frank Miller issue. I don't quite remember. Anyway, they pinned all of that on Terry because Terry's the only person alive, alive, underlined, who has the access to do that. So that's not a bad twist. And Spawn still doesn't realize that he's doing this to Terry. So that's something. This is like the one thing in here that's kind of interesting. So they sent agents around to his house and went, nice family, shame if anything happened to him. So, dumbing it down with like cliches and shit, but we didn't expect anything else. So naturally, Terry's response has to be to stand at his window in his boxers in the middle of the night. Because that's what you do when your family is threatened. We've all seen that, right? That's what happens. So elsewhere, we cut to the police precinct where Sam and Twitch have been busted basically back to desk jobs while they're being investigated by Internal Affairs. Because, of course, somebody snuck into their room and strung a child killer up from their ceiling by chains and, stuck a bunch of popsicle sticks in him. So naturally, that casts a little bit of suspicion onto them. Now, this is just Sam kind of hating his new position where he has to take statements from inane old ladies. This page is all fine. It's kind of fun, and he kept it quick. It doesn't look like much of anything, but that's, it's fine, whatever. And now we finally get to the fight between Spawn and Chapel. So Spawn teleports them to, I think it's Botswana? Yes. Where Chapel originally killed Al Simmons. So he takes him out to what looks like kind of desert and marsh and shit. And goes, surely you haven't forgotten this place already. It's like, this is just kind of a blasted landscape. And he's trying to be all moral high ground on him. And it's like, exactly, you don't give a damn about anything other than yourself. You don't even remember killing me. Meanwhile, he's sitting there with this giant fucking cape on and the mask and the stupid suit, and not looking anything like Al Simmons and not giving any kind of intimation that he is Al Simmons. Which is, I guess, okay in the fact that he's kind of like fucking with Chapel, but at the same time, he's like trying to act indignant. It's like, dude, you're doing this yourself. Come on, calm down. So yeah, they start their fight. Chapel gets his lunge in, and Spawn responds with a big old punch to the chops. That's almost a Jay Lee looking face there. I always thought that. Which is interesting because they say stuff about Geiger messing with Chapel. And Geiger was introduced in the Youngblood strike file that was drawn by Jay Lee. I wonder if there's a little bit of influence there. Maybe just like a tad. And we get a poster by Walt Simonson. Yeah, that's pretty good. I'll be honest, not the most exciting poster. I think I would have liked to have seen him do one of his temper tantrums. Where you get the Walt Simonson energy lines and everything. That would have been better. And the hair is coming off his zombie head. Always kind of undercut whatever kind of intimidation he's trying to pull off. Oh, yeah, but he's actually got him. Like Todd draws him with those too. So he keeps saying the same thing and acting indignant without revealing who he is. And Chapel's just like, okay, fine, whatever you say, man, I'm just going to kill you. And then he goes, you're so full of yourself. Always did think you were the best, even with the ladies. Isn't that right? Don Juan of Killers? Which, again, a little bit cumbersome. If he'd just been like, isn't that right, Juan? Still would have been silly, but at least would have been a little bit more natural. But, of course, that, nobody calls him Don Juan of Killers because it's such a terrible nickname. So he goes, oh my God, is that Al? And then we flash back to Chapel getting the order to kill Al Simmons, where they figured that he was selling secrets, and Chapel doesn't question orders, so he just, goes along with it. So the next time they get sent out into the field, Al's doing his hero run, and Chapel just walks up and fries his face off. And that's all fine. This is like typical Todd stuff for a flashback, although I don't know what the fuck is going on with this discoloration. Is that an error in the issue? I think I actually have two of this. Hang on a second. Don't ask me why I have two of this. Oh. Okay. I don't know what happened there. That's weird. I think I'll switch to this one. Seeing as how this one is now invaluable. Okay, so from there we get our talking heads thing, which Todd loves to break out because he can just photocopy old pages. And again, just kind of run his mouth, which is, like what Todd does best, right? And they're all talking about the hero soldier who was recently killed in Botswana, which is not really a thing people talk about on the news, but he's got to have an excuse to get those talking heads in there, right? It's very important that he lets you know how much he likes Dark Knight. All right, so with the revelation that it's Al, Chapel snaps, which was Spawn's mistake, because in the McFarlane world, a character snapping is basically the cheat code. That's like their up, up, down, down, left, right, etc., where they become invulnerable for like a little while. So he starts getting some hits in on Spawn. Unfortunately, not enough to make it anywhere near an even fight, because Spawn immediately comes back and like tosses him around. And Chapel yells at him for being a goody two-shoes, because he was the one who took the serum, and now he has HIV. I think this has all been settled in strike file. I assume the serum is like gives him superpowers of some kind, but also, you know, HIV. Shame. And stabs him in the chest with the big Jay Lee looking knife. Yeah, that's totally influencing him. What am I talking about? And Spawn says, "How pitiful you've become." Because, again, moral high ground. It's very important in these books. And pulls the sword out of his chest. That's a cool shot. It feels like the first cool shot we've had in this whole fucking issue. And then they just kind of get back to kind of brawling. Spawn's like, "Look, you can't even kill me. You'd already be dead if I wanted it, but it's not what I want. When I died, a whole bunch of people mourned. Nobody would mourn if you died. The only thing in your life is your one-night stand, so that's what I'm going to take away from you." And does the big zap on his face. Then reactivates his tracking device. I guess he disabled it earlier. So that Youngblood can find him now. And then they do, 8 hours later. And when they get there, yeah, so Chapel has had his makeup branded on his face permanently. I think when I first saw this, I thought maybe he'd had, like, the skin burned off of his skull kind of thing. Except, no, because he's got the nose here. So it's more like he just got his skin dyed. So Spawn gave him that Michael Jackson depigmentization. It's very embarrassing. And that's it for Spawn number 13. That's it for the Who Killed Spawn story thing. And next we're going to do the Return of the Violator, except I'm not, because the next 2 issues is just an ad for the toy, the medieval Spawn toy. So I'm not going to bother with those. It sucks. It's boring. Get some more fan art here. I've had a few people leave comments saying that they had their stuff published in this, or in like the Dragon one, or something like that. I think one was in Cyberforce, maybe. So let me know if you got any of these in here. And that's it for Spawn number 13. All right, so we covered the first year and a bit of Spawn. And apart from the issues that were written by somebody else, I don't think I've enjoyed a single issue of this. It's such crap. You know, if he was writing some emo stuff all the way through, but drawing like he did in issue 1, I think that would have been fine. But ever since issue 1, he's just given less and less of a shit in every issue. So, I mean, I kind of want to do the Grant Morrison, the 3 issues there, because that's like the first Greg Capullo stuff. That's worth talking about. And then there's a few issues after that where Todd hangs on and pretends he's a comic book artist. We might hit that eventually. I think it's going to be a little while, though. Honestly, it bothers me a little bit that this particular comic didn't go the same way as like Wildcats, Cyberforce, Youngblood, all of that, and just peter out somewhere in the mid-90s. I think that would have been more appropriate. Instead of, not writing the book for long stretches, not drawing it since issue 24, I think, but keeping it going like an emo zombie demon, just so that at issue 301 you can put a banner on it saying, "Hey guys, look, this is the longest running creator-owned comic book. I now have my own Barry Bonds record, complete with asterisk." So yeah, something tells me I'm not going to be invited to draw any Spawn shit anytime soon. Anyway, that's going to do it for this one. Thanks very much for watching. If you like this video, please hit like, hit subscribe, hit the notifications so you know when the next one's coming out. Go over and subscribe on my Patreon. It gives you early access to everything I do, from the Blood Force stuff to the YouTube videos before they get uploaded to YouTube, as well as some Patreon exclusive content. You can also follow me on Instagram and DM me there for commissions, and you can join the Blood Force Discord server. But yeah, that's going to do it. Thanks again, guys. I'll see you in the next one. Bye-bye.